There are two main types of errors you will encounter when debugging Flash content: compiler errors and runtime errors. This lesson will demonstrate how to deal with both. So here I have a small application, and it basically has a little icon here on the stage, and this icon has the instance name of icon, all lowercase icon. I also have an actions layer, which contains all our code. So looking at that code through the actions panel, we can see that we're doing some imports. We're importing flash.display.loader, and the loader class is used to load different elements into a Swift that's running. So for instance, in this case, we're loading in an image into our loader object. Then we also have flash.net.url request. The URL request is used along with loader in order to define the path to the JPEG we want to load in. So here I've spec'd out a number of different sections. I have a section to demonstrate compilation errors, and compilation errors are errors that happen when you try to compile your Swift from your basic code and assets. I have an example of a correct implementation and an example of an incorrect implementation. So basically what we're doing here is we are adding an event listener to our icon of type mouseEvent.click, and when somebody clicks on that icon, we're going to invoke the function onClick. So let's see what happens when I actually go through and use the incorrect syntax for this. Now, you'll notice that the only thing that's different is that I have an uppercase I in my symbol instance declaration for icon. But this is actually going to make a huge amount of difference when we try to compile our application. So if I go up to debug, debug movie, debug, you can tell nothing actually really happened, except that down here we've got this compiler errors tab. Any compilation errors are going to show up in here when we try to publish, debug, or test our movie. So we can see that scene 1, layer actions, frame 1, on line 14, we have a compilation error. We receive the error number, so this is error number 1120, and you can look that up in Google to find out exactly what it does. But it tells you here too, access of undefined property icon. So that tells us, oh, okay, we haven't actually defined icon anywhere. So from here to troubleshoot, we could say, all right, well, I could have sworn that I called this thing icon. Let's select it. And, oh, we can see. All right, so I used an uppercase I, where really I should have used a lowercase I. So let's go back to our actions and fix that. And to fix it, we simply need to use the lowercase I. So now if I go to debug, and I say debug movie, debug, you can see that we enter into debug mode. I don't get any sort of compilation errors. So perfect. Any compilation errors will always occur when you try to test, debug, or publish, and will appear in the compilation errors window. And they're pretty easy to troubleshoot because it tells you exactly what layer, line, scene, and so forth your actual error occurs at, and gives you that error number and description. So then we have runtime errors. So for runtime errors, sometimes it's a little more shady. So what we're doing to set this up is we're creating a new loader. So var loader, lowercase l, and it's type 2 loader equals new loader. So that creates the loader object for us. And then right below that, we add child loader. So this adds loader to our display list on our stage so that it's actually visible for the user. OnClick is the function that's executed through this event listener when the icon receives a mouseEvent.click. So when somebody clicks on that, we're going to execute this code right here. So I've spec'd out this area to demonstrate runtime errors. And I have both a correct implementation and incorrect. So the correct implementation would be to say loader.load and then create a new URL request passing in the path or the name of that image. And the image is actually image.jpg. If we look right here, we can see image.jpg. There it is. However, to view the incorrect implementation and demonstrate this, I'll uncomment that line, and we can see loader.load, new URL request, and we pass in new image.jpg. And if we look in our directory, there is no file called newimage.jpg. So this is going to throw an I/O error because the image simply doesn't exist. Now, the Flash compiler isn't going to be able to detect this error because it's not actually trying to load the image in. It's just checking to see if our syntax and our code is actually correct, that it'll execute properly. And if it does, then it's going to compile for us. But if that image isn't there, we're going to get a runtime error. So let's demonstrate this. Go to debug, debug movie, debug. So you can see it compiles just fine. And here's our actual SWF. But if I click on that, we get a number of different things happening. We get this dialog box. So whenever you're using the debug version of Flash Player, either in your browser or in Flash Professional, whenever you get runtime errors, they'll pop up in this little dialog box here. And it tells us error number 2044, unhandled I/O error event, and what does it tell us? URL not found. So it cannot find that image, basically. So we can hit continue here, and we can also look down at our output window. Now this isn't going to show up in the compilation errors tab because it's not a compilation error. It's just output. So it tells us the same thing down here, URL not found. So okay, we can go back in and switch these guys out to point to the actual image that exists within our directory. And again, debug, debug movie, debug. So here, no compilation errors. And now when we click on this icon, we get the actual image loaded in because we're pointing to the right image. So no compilation errors, no runtime errors. So this has been an example of how to deal with both compilation and runtime errors within Flash Professional CS6.